Welcome back to Reaching New Heights with Troy Bell, City Manager, City of Muskegon Heights, where you get to know what you need to know so you'll be in the know. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in Wednesdays at 2 p.m. here on 103.7 The Beat. It's always a pleasure to be here, and thank you for all the comments and messages throughout the week. We're excited to have you back, and we're excited, most importantly, with where we're headed with the city of Muskegon Heights. That's what Reaching New Heights is all about, the effort to embrace a renaissance in our community, to lift the city of Muskegon Heights, to continue to lift the city of Muskegon Heights to the next level, to a new level. And we welcome you to the show, and thank you for being a part of the show and being a part of the conversation in our community, because it is the residents of our community, the people that live and work in our community, the businesses in our community that bring meaning to the notion and to the idea of community. And so that is important. And this radio show is intended to reach out to people across the community and provide people a chance in the community to be part of the dialogue. So please feel free to join the show, contact us, message us, so that we can hear your questions. And if you have questions, like I say, the caveat is let's keep it positive, because we are moving in the right direction. We're moving in the positive direction. Right now, we're in the midst of what feels like a blizzard at some point in time when you're out in the middle of the snow. Just coming in here in the station, the snow was blowing sideways. So hopefully, if you're out there in the weather, that you stay safe, that you stay warm, and that you get to wherever you're going quickly and safely, but most importantly, safely. So let's start off today with a few announcements. Just a reminder, City Hall has our council meetings are on the second and the fourth Monday of every month. That's the second and fourth Monday of every month. So if we have months that have 5 Mondays, there's no meeting on the fifth Monday. That's just a bonus day. So every month, it's the second and fourth Monday of the month. So that means that this Monday coming, the 10th, we will have a council meeting. So council meetings start at 5:30 at City Hall. We ask that you bring a mask if you're coming in person. You can also connect with us via Zoom. The Zoom link is on our website at City Hall's website. So you can find it there, join us via Zoom. But if we would love for you to come in person, and if you do come in person, please come with a mask. We do have spacing and social distancing with the chairs in the chambers. So we welcome you to come in and be a part of your government in City Hall. I do want to remind everybody that the deadline for leaf pickup has passed. December 17th was the last day to get your bags picked up from the terrace. So if you have leaves, I know we have snow down now, but in between the snow coming and melting, if you have leaves or yard waste that you need to dispose of, then you got to figure out another way to dispose of your yard waste. So the 17th was the last day that Republic was scheduled to pick up leaf bags and yard waste from the terrace. Now, DPW is providing a service to you. If you have leaf bags that you want disposed of, you can go down to City Hall at the treasurer's office and pay to have your leaf bags picked up, and they'll schedule a time for DPW to come pick it up. So right now, if you want to have your leaves picked up to 30 bags will only cost you $20. So If you've got more than 30 bags, then you might want to hold off, set it in the back of your yard until the next season. But if you got up to 30 bags, we can pick them up for $20. And DPW will schedule a time with you so that you're not having them sit out there in the rain and get soggy, to come pick up the bags. And just a reminder, when you're putting your leaf bags together, please do not include the dirt in it, because that's what makes them heavy and that's what causes the bags to break. Please do not include any trash or debris that is not natural, so that we can go ahead and process those yard waste properly. If you have the means or the capacity to bring your yard waste down to DPW, you can save yourself some cash by bringing it down to DPW, in which case it's 50 cents per bag to drop them off down at DPW. And you need to schedule your time to drop them off during work hours, Monday through Thursday. City Hall is closed on Friday, as well as DPW. So Monday through Thursday, you can bring your bags down to DPW and dispose of them there. Now, what you should do is count up how many bags you have. If you've got 20 bags, you can go down to City Hall and pay for them there, and City Hall will give you the receipt for paying, and then you can take them down to DPW, show the receipt, and they will allow you to drop them off there and process them there. So that'll save you, if you've got 100 bags, that'll save you some money, rather than paying the extra to have DPW come and pick them up. The next thing I wanted to mention to you is to emphasize that 2022 is the year that we are going to focus on cleaning up and keeping our community clean. Clean up and keep it clean. So we're asking everybody to pay attention to the trash that is floating around in our community. Make sure that if you're putting your trash in your bin at your house, to bag it first, because what happens oftentimes when they pick up the bins, if you don't have your trash bagged, when they flip it over on top of the truck, the papers fly out. I mean, we're in a windy city. The winds are high here, and anything that's not in a bag is susceptible to being blown away. So we ask you to take that extra step and put your waste in a bag before you put it into your container to put out on the curb. A reminder that if you have too much trash for one container, rather than getting a citation for having your trash out on the ground or overflowing, you can pay $30 for the year to have an extra container. I mean, that's not a lot. If you've got a lot of trash that you typically put out, that $30 can come in handy, because we'd rather have you spend the $30 and have it in a container so that animals can't get to it, so it doesn't fly away, than have to go out and issue citations to people who have excess trash outside of the dumpster or above the dumpster. The dumpster top should be able to close. And if your dumpster top can close, then you know you're in good shape. If it is sprawling out outside of the container, then that is an issue. So for an extra $30, you can get an extra container for that. But the focus is on cleaning up. So when we come out of the out of the winter into the spring, we want everybody to be ready to clean up, to straighten up their yards, to mow, to trim, to rake, and to help us with getting rid of the amount of dumping and trash that's out there floating around in the community. If you have items that you want to get rid of, bulk items like couches or chairs or TV, those types of things, you can put those out on the terrace with a sticker that you can pick up from City Hall. I believe the stickers are $4 per sticker per item, and make sure that if you have a mattress that you wrap it in plastic so that it's sealed. Put a sticker on it, and we can pick it up from the curb. But please do not put stuff out on the curb without stickers. please come down to City Hall and purchase your stickers. We keep a record of who's purchased stickers, and that way we know that your items have been paid for, the stickers are there, and Republic can come by and pick them up from the curb. So we will be focusing on keeping the terrace clear in the new year. So this is heads up on that, because we'd rather have our community clean than have to go after people and issue citations again and again in order to keep people from putting bulk items just out on the curb with no stickers on them. If you put them out there on the curb and for whatever reason they are not meeting the requirements, Republic is going to put another sticker on them with an explanation as to why your item could not be picked up. For instance, if you put a mattress out there and you don't wrap it in plastic, when they come by, they've been charged with the responsibility of putting a sticker on it to say, we cannot pick this up because it is not wrapped in plastic, etc. So that is our way of working with Republic, our trash company, to keep the terraces clear, to keep it clean. And if you see anybody who's dumping on the terrace or on vacant lots, there is $1,000 reward for reporting that. And if it leads to the arrest and prosecution of the individual, then you will get $1,000 reward. And thanks to 1037 for their contribution in making that reward possible. But we've got a beautiful community. We've got a grid system, we've got a lake, we've got waterfront, we've got highway, we've got rail access, and beautiful turn-the-century homes. And so there's no reason why we can't have a community that is clean and cut, and where the fences are straight and the houses are painted. That's what our community deserves. And if we come together as a community and work together, we can make that happen. And that's, following the leadership of the mayor and the council and the administration, and painting that vision and asking the residents and the community come together behind that vision and make it happen, make it a reality. Let me also remind everybody that after we get out of winter, you can no longer park your vehicles. I believe April 1st is the date for that. You can no longer park your vehicles on the terrace. And after that, if you're parking your car in the yard as opposed to on the driveway or in the garage, there is going to be citations and towing for that. So please be prepared to park either on the street or in the driveway or the garage when April 1st comes. So, and what does it mean to be parking in the driveway or in the garage? Well, you can't park in the grass. You have to have a driveway that is connected to the curb cut that goes to the road. And that driveway has to be a hard surface. It can't be dirt or grass. It has to be a hard surface. So if you don't have a driveway with a hard surface, you will risk getting a citation for parking in your yard. So be prepared, and make sure that if you don't have it, that you're prepared to put in a driveway or pave it so that you won't get a citation. But in the meantime, like today, for example, we've got snow. And so we ask you to park on the terrace between the hours of, I believe it's 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Because that keeps the roads clear so that the plows can come through and be as effective and efficient as possible. Because we all want the roads clear and safe to be able to get to where we want to go. And your effort in helping out with that by removing your car from the roadway and parking on the terrace between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. makes a huge difference. Again, we'd rather have you help us out by parking on the terrace as opposed to us having to come by and issue citations or tow vehicles, so that there's a clear pathway for the snowplows to be able to get through. So just a few reminders, a few heads up on things that you can do within the community, as part of the community, to help beautify our community, to help us be more effective as a city in providing services to the community. So with those updates and reminders, I want to highlight the fact that I am so happy that we passed our budget before the new year, and now we are in compliance with the state requirements. And I want to read to our listeners the statement that was provided to the press regarding the requirement to have a balanced budget approved by January 1st. And just so our listeners understand, the state requirement, which is under the Uniform Budget Act, I think it might be Uniform Budget and Accounting Act, says that every city must have a balanced budget in place in order to be able to spend money by the beginning of their fiscal year. Our fiscal year begins January 1st and ends on December 31st. So the requirement is that we have that in by January 1st. What is a balanced budget? The definition of a balanced budget is a budget that shows the revenues equaling the expenditures, or a balanced budget is a budget that shows the revenues exceeding the expenditures in the budget. In which case, if the revenues exceed the expenditures, then there's a surplus. Now, the budget is just a document that projects what you think your revenues are going to be and what you think your expenses are going to be. So on a very simple level, we have to provide a document that projects revenues that we think we're going to receive equal to expenditures that we plan on spending, or a budget that shows revenues in excess of the ones that we expect to spend, which would be a surplus. So if we meet those requirements with this projected document, then that is what qualifies us as meeting the requirements under the Uniform Budget Act. So I am happy that we were able to get that in place. And so the statement that was provided to the press said exactly that. I'm happy to say that council was able to approve a balanced budget for the city of Muskegon Heights in compliance with our charter and the Uniform Budget Act. Initial efforts to approve the budget though receiving a majority vote, failed to achieve the minimum 5 of 7 votes necessary to meet charter requirements. This is the second budget cycle that I have gone through with the city as the full-time city manager. Both budgets involved our local economy, which was gravely affected by the impacts of COVID. Year over year, our expenditures continue to escalate, and our revenues are flat and declining. Though I consider our city fortunate to have access to the federal American Rescue Plan Act funding to balance our budget, communities like ours are exactly why the federal government had the good foresight to make such funds available for cities adversely affected by COVID. With these funds, we can apply resources skillfully in areas that resolve short-term deficits and generate immediate and sustainable revenue streams. The budget process in every community is often a grueling effort. Municipal budgeting is a complex mix of art and science, data and prediction that is understandably exacerbated by a pandemic that disrupts financial trends and makes forecasting infinitely more unpredictable. Realizing this new reality, it is expected that our council newcomers would want to give the budget more in-depth scrutiny. The budget schedule and process timeline approved in November by council for this budget included 3 consecutive Monday meetings and a fourth additional meeting tentatively included for final approval if needed. Our meeting today showed the difficult work councils must do within the limiting framework created by the intersection of city charters, state budget statutes, and the open meeting public hearing notification requirements. In the end, though, council members came to realize the dire consequences facing the community and the importance of meeting the minimum requirements of state statute to pass a balanced budget over the need to address various concerns left unresolved after the first 3 meetings. After many years in public service, I can say there is never a perfect budget or a perfect review and approval process, especially when proffered during a highly imperfect pandemic era. But I believe the collaborative effort undertaken by the city to involve all staff directors for the first time in Muskegon Heights in developing and designing the budget has helped us. It's helped us to create a wise, insightful, and strategic budget proposal that will allow our city to ignite the redevelopment and infill necessary to create a renaissance and help our city reach new heights. So that was the statement that was provided to the press, thankfully, about the passage of the budget for 2022. Now, I did get some questions and messages about what is the definition of Renaissance? Why are we using this term Renaissance? What does that mean? And so when I use that term Renaissance, what that means to me is improving the quality of life for our community. And that means improving the quality of life with regard to health and wellness. That means improving the quality of life with regard to education and learning, with regard to jobs and work opportunities, with regard to new businesses and new industry in the city, with regard to new opportunities to worship and to worship in ways that we are most comfortable with. You know, these are all areas that, when they are improved, amount to a renaissance in the community. So when I use that term, renaissance, I'm talking about all these things, including improved safety and security. So across the board, we can improve the quality of life in our community by pursuing the development of additional revenues in our community. And I believe the budget that we pass will allow us to do that, will empower us to do that. But at the end of the day, what's going to make the difference, because as I said, our expenses continue to increase. And that's not expenses because we're buying new toys or we're spending it frivolously. Just the cost of salaries goes up as a result of inflation. Just the cost of benefits goes up as a result of inflation. The cost of materials themselves goes up as a result of inflation. So if we did nothing differently every year, year over year, our expenses are going to continue to go up. But our revenues are not keeping pace with that. And that is the challenge. We need to figure out a way to increase our revenues in order to keep pace with the expenses. Now, some people have talked about the possibility of cutting salaries or the possibility of cutting staff. It's my understanding in 2008, there was a significant reduction, either 2008 or 2012, there was a significant reduction in staffing to the point that the staffing is at what our current staffing level is today. That was a significant reduction in the police department, a significant reduction in the number of persons employed in public works and DPW, significant reduction in city staff. And so what we operate with now, within our city, the staffing levels are what I would consider operationally bare minimum. That means we have no bench. If somebody's out, we have nobody to back them up. So there's not fluff or frill in our budget. or in our staffing. So the idea of cutting staffing when we're struggling now in order to be able to provide services, like right now we have snow, we should have ideally 10 plows out there on the street. But in order to have 10 plows, we have to have the money to purchase that equipment, and we have to have the money to hire that staff to be able to run those plows. We don't have that. And so if we're talking about cutting staffing where when we're already struggling to be able to provide services, that would create a severe hindrance to the city in order in our efforts to be able to provide staff and services. So that's an area that I would not recommend that would do us any good if we were to look at cutting staff. And our staffing is a significant portion of our budget. Um, so we're talking about 60% of our budget already is staff. So, the moral of the story, the picture that I'm trying to paint is I think oftentimes people think that the city has all this money and they're just squandering it and pilfering it, and the money's just going down the drain. That's simply not true. Um, the challenge that we have is that we're operating on bare minimum, and the cost of what we're doing today go up tomorrow without us purchasing anything new, hiring any new staff. That's how inflation works. So what we have to focus on, and we talked about this in our last meeting, is new revenue. How do we generate new revenue in our community? And so um, we will dedicate future shows to talking in more depth about solutions on how we can generate new revenue. At the end of the day, this community was built to be run with 5,000 homes, minimum of 5,000 homes. Right now, we have 3,700 residences. Over the last 4 to 5 years, over 400 homes have been demolished and torn down. And you've heard me say this on the show before. We have over 1,000 vacant lots in the city. And that doesn't even include vacant lots that are privately held. Those are vacant lots that are publicly held. That's where our tax base is. We put houses on those properties, on those vacant lots, and we bring back our city. Now, the key, though, is how we go about putting houses on those lots. And so when you hear me talk about Renaissance versus gentrification, what I'm saying in that message is this: we can improve the quality of life in our community, which oftentimes is associated with gentrification, which is like a 4-letter word, gentrification. But we can embrace the Renaissance without having to have the negative aspects of gentrification. The negative aspects of gentrification are displacement. You look at communities across the country that have gone through gentrification, they've increased the quality of life. Their health and wellness is better, their safety and security is better, the quality of education has increased, there's business opportunity, there's jobs, there's industry. However, in doing that, they have displaced the people who had been living in those communities for generation after generation. And I firmly believe that we have enough smart people around the table and in the room and part of this discussion so that we can be intentional about creating a renaissance, improving the quality of life without displacing the people who have created the beautiful mosaic of community culture that exists in Muskegon Heights. And the culture of Muskegon Heights is the fabric of this community. And so the key is, the question is not, do we build or do we not build? If we want to save our community, we have to build houses because this community was designed to operate on at least 5,000 homes, and we're well below that now. So we have to build new homes. There's no question about that. The question is how we go about it, and do we go about it in a way that is intentional about making sure that we serve the generations and families of this community that have been here, that have raised children here, that have their hearts here, that have their dreams here. And I have no doubt that we can do that. And so if you have an opportunity to look at the proposals that we have provided for building new houses, the programs that we have in place for building new houses and renovating existing homes, all of them require that the builders bring along with them specific programs. And I call it the ABCs, not because they start with A, B, or C, but because they are foundational to what we're doing. You have to be able to provide down payment assistance. You have to be able to provide credit repair if you're going to build in Muskegon Heights, and you have to be willing to provide mentorship for new first time or new home buyers for up to 3 years. These are the requirements that we set forth for those people who are interested in building new homes in the community. And the reason why this is important and critical to what we're doing is because we want to create wealth in our community by transitioning people from renting, where you're paying somebody else's mortgage or you're putting money in somebody else's pocket, to owning property. The sociologists and the economists alike will tell you that the single most significant factor that develops wealth in this country is the ownership of property. And the single most significant factor that can be leveraged to provide generational wealth or intergenerational wealth, like some people like to refer to it as, which is the ability to pass on wealth from one generation to the next generation. The single most significant factor in the United States to be able to do that is through the ownership of property, and specifically residential property, because that is an asset that grows in value year after year if managed properly, that you own and then can transition or hand off to the next generation. So we want, as a fundamental piece of what we do moving forward in 2022, to work hard at transitioning people from renting to owning. And what we are asking is that anybody that comes in to build new houses in our community and to partner with the city in building new houses in this community is vested and committed to bringing at least those three things, because we know that those three things are what is going to allow us to maintain the cultural fabric of our community and not push people out of our community. So you may hear people talk about a $150,000 house. Now, let me remind you that in Muskegon Heights, we have not built a new home since, well, 2004 was the completion of Woodcliff. But since 2004, only 3 homes were built in 2014. So we're talking about really 17, 18 years since there have been any new homes built of any significant number in Muskegon Heights. The average age of our homes in Muskegon Heights, because we have not continued to build new homes, is almost 100 years old. And so we know that it's time to build. And we know that in order to transition people from renting to owning, we need to have those ABCs in place. So a $150,000 home might sound like something that is beyond the reach of people who live in Muskegon Heights. However, if you apply 20% down payment assistance, that takes $30,000 off the top. So now a $150,000 home costs you $120,000. And if you're paying between $600 and $1,200 a month in rent, these are homes that are affordable, starting at 150 and going all the way up to 280,000. Now, people might say to you, "Well, nobody's going to want to buy a house in Muskegon Heights for 280,000." And I will admit that, I mean, that's on the high end. But I get phone calls all the time from people who grew up in Muskegon Heights, went away to college, want to come back to Muskegon Heights, and want to know if they can find a home, a new home in Muskegon Heights for under what they would have to pay if they were in Grand Rapids. And in Grand Rapids, the same home that you can build here in Muskegon Heights for 150 or 280 is going to cost you 380 to $450,000 in Grand Rapids. And so, do you want to, if you're going to work in Grand Rapids, it makes sense to drive 40 miles to save yourself $150,000 in a home that you can have in a community that you grew up in a community that represents the cultural fabric that you feel comfortable with. And so that's the value of Muskegon Heights that I see when I look at Muskegon Heights, that maybe others might not see. But from the 22 years of service that I have in public service and the many states that I've worked in and the multiple communities that I have served, I can tell you that there is tremendous value in the dirt and in the ground and in the lots and in the people of Muskegon Heights. And so to me, a $280,000, $150,000 house is cheap when you consider the value that you get with Muskegon Heights. And so the value of building, we've talked about that. The fact that building brings people and people are followed by business. You know, people want to open up a restaurant in a community where the population is growing. People want to create retail in locations where they're going to have foot traffic. So as we build homes and people purchase these homes and they build their lives around these homes, that is an indicator to all the businesses out there that it's time to set up shop in Muskegon Heights. And as business comes, industry follows. And what that provides us, it gives us, like we've talked about in the last show, that's income tax, that's property tax, that's permit fees, revenue from permit fees, that's water accounts. And, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that we had to increase the cost of our water. And that's something, again, that our water filtration plant was designed to operate with a city of a minimum of 5,000. Previous to us, previous to the breakup of the agreement with other cities, we had over 50,000 users on our that we were serving with our water filtration plant. Now we're down to 10,000 users, 3,700 homes. And so if we want to share or spread the cost of that service out and to reduce it for each of those that live in Muskegon Heights, we need to add more users to the system. And that way we can spread the cost out, spread the pain out, and reduce the cost to the community. So new homes is a mechanism for doing that. But in order for us to accomplish that, we need to be mindful, we need to be strategic, we need to be intentional about how we design the programs. We can't just let anybody come in and throw up a home. I mean, it was said that a $300,000 home next to a $70,000 home does not increase the value of the community. But in fact, it does. A $300,000 home, if somebody wants to come in and build it, take money out of their pocket, I welcome them to come and invest $300,000 in our community, because if that block had 8 houses that were worth $100,000 on it before, that's an $800,000 block that just went from 800,000 to 11,000, 1.1. So 1.1 million from 800,000. So that improves whether the math is that the math is the math. Now you might argue a $300,000 house on a block where everything else is 100,000 or less, maybe the value of that $300,000 house comes down to 280 or 250, but still it's going from a vacant lot where there was trash, a vacant lot where people were dumping, a vacant lot that was overgrown with weeds and trees and bushes and shrubs, a vacant lot that may have had field mice in it. It's going from that, which is dragging down the value of that block, to a $300,000 house. I would offer the $300,000 house any day. And if somebody is willing to take money out of their pocket and build it, then I welcome that, because that improves our community. Now, the question then that people will pose is, well, who's going to buy that? Well, although I'm interested in, like I said, transitioning people from renting to owning, the point is that if an outside investor invests $300,000 and they provide down payment assistance, they provide credit repair, and they provide home ownership mentorship for the first 3 years, those three things level the playing field that make that investment accessible to people who live in our community. And that's why it's important to be intentional about the way that we approach this program of development. Now, there were some questions that were raised about our vacant lot program. Our vacant lot program was initiated back in March of 2020. In March of 2020, based on looking at the number of vacant lots in this community, like I said, over 1,000 vacant lots, and having conversations with various stakeholders who have said that, when you ask the question, why are there so many vacant lots? Well, one was because of the hardest hit. There were so many vacancies as a result of the recession that they were dangerous, they were condemned, and they needed to be torn down because they were an impetus for crime and unsafe environments. So I get that. But when you tear it down, you got to have a plan to build it back up again. Otherwise, it continues to be a drag on the community. So over the last 4 or 5 years, as I said before, 400 homes have been torn down in our community. But in the conversations around why, that was the answer, but why do they continue to be vacant? Well, a number of them were in the hands of the land bank, and the land bank sold them to people who lived next door and who may have been maintaining it, which is not a bad thing. But in order for us to bring our community back, we need to build houses on those vacant lots. And oftentimes I'm told that when those lots were purchased, the taxes weren't paid on them, and within 3 years, those lots reverted back. So as a group, the leadership team at the city sat down and we talked about how we can build a program going forward that would encourage people to build on those lots and safeguard the city from the potential that they don't pay the taxes and that lot sits there for 3 years before then it gets repossessed again and comes right back to the city. And so that's why, in addition to requiring the ABCs of credit repair, down payment assistance, and mentorship, we require anybody who's buying a lot to commit to building a new house within 3 years. So they have 3 years to build a new house on that property. In that 3 years, they're required to maintain the property, keep it cut, keep it clean, and they are also required to prepay the taxes on those properties. So that means that we don't have to run the risk of them sitting on the property for 3 years and us getting no taxes from it because they're paying those taxes up front. So we've got that money in the bucket, so to speak. And all we have to do is wait for them to build the new house on that property and under that 3-year period. But here's the beauty of this. In that 3-year period, that lot is maintained. It's clean. That's one less lot that is dragging down the value of our community, that's blighted, that has trash on it, that's overgrown. One less lot that DPW has to worry about maintaining with limited resources, with limited staffing. Now that lot is somebody else's responsibility, and it's an opportunity for them to build a dream for somebody else. But it is no longer a drag or a detriment to the city. And if they don't meet all of those requirements that I just mentioned, maintaining the lot, building on the lot, providing access to credit repair, so on and so forth, then the city has the right to step in and take that lot back. And in the program that we put together, anybody who's buying these lots has to sign a power of attorney over to the city, has to sign a quit claim deed that is held in escrow by the city that says that the city can exercise taking back that property at any time that we show that they are failing to meet their obligations under the agreement. You won't find that anywhere else but here. That fully protects the city from any of the downside that existed before, when we used to give away lots and nothing ever happened with those lots. Here is the basis of the lot sales program that was then presented to council in March and approved in April. That if an individual, a builder or a developer came to the city and said, I want to buy one, two, multiple of those vacant lots, if they are able, if they are willing to commit to all of these factors, they're willing to sign a contract, they're willing to sign over power of attorney, they're willing to sign a quit claim deed in escrow. If they're willing to meet all of those terms and conditions, then they're willing to execute all of those documents, that we will expedite the process of selling those lots to those people, because we know that they are meeting the terms of what we're looking for to be able to create a renaissance in our community without gentrification. So that is the program and the process that was approved. Previously, people would come in and say that they wanted a lot. We would sell it to them for $1, sometimes $100 for that lot. 3 years later, the taxes would revert that lot back, and we're stuck in the same situation. The process before is they would come in, a document was drawn up by the city attorney. It was brought before the city council. The city council would approve it, and the lot was then deeded over to the individual who was buying it. What we've done with this process is built in all of these safeguards that I've talked about. And then once they've executed all of that, once they've provided a cashier's check with all the funds required, we can then take that package to council for council to approve it. That was the process that council approved in March of 2020. Now, we had somebody purchase 13 lots under that program. We had somebody purchase 2 lots under that program. The program started to get some synergy and a momentum. The next individual came in who was a developer and said he wanted to build 100 homes in Muskegon Heights. And, my recommendation to him was, instead of building 100, let's start off with 30. So he picked out 30 lots that he wanted to start with. And in the process, we eliminated one of those lots because of title issues with that lot. So we ended up with 29 lots. And we moved that. He agreed, executed, provided us with the cashier's check. And when we brought it before council, it was not approved. And so there's some confusion that, well, nothing happened with those 13 lots. Well, the individuals that bought those 13 lots are not the same entity as the individual who wants to purchase those 29 lots and build. Those are two separate things. So let's not confuse the two. So remember, the group that bought the 13 lots, they have 3 years to build on them. And in the interim, they've been cutting those lots. They've been maintaining them. They've been taking care of them. They're doing what they're supposed to do under the contractual requirements of the program. That's a whole separate group. Let's not confuse the two. The other group is a gentleman African-American gentleman out of, well, both groups are African-American, but the developer out of North Carolina that grew up in the Muskegon, Grand Rapids area and had his parents and assisted living in the area, and was coming back and forth and was interested in giving back to a community like ours that he enjoyed the benefits of and reaped the fruit of as a kid growing up. And he wanted to do right by the community, wanted to give back. And that individual is the one that put forth the proposal for the 29 lots, met all the requirements, and um, was not approved by council. So hopefully he will come back to the table, because I'm hoping that we now understand that we have to do something differently. We have to build, we have to generate new revenue, we have to get moving. And he actually indicated that he wanted to have 4 of them built by the end of the year. And that was back in August, September of last year. So unfortunately that didn't happen, but I'm a forever optimist that it's not a lost cause, and that we will have another opportunity to bring that package before council and have them approve it with the required 5 votes to move forward. So I just wanted to clear that up between, that, so that there's no confusion that the 13 are related to the 29. Yes, they're all under the lot sales program, but they're 2 different entities. And so I look forward to being able to push forward. And our goal that we've set out there, we talked about this in the budget session, is to build 50 houses per year, every year for the next 5 years. So you may see 50 for 5. At the end of 5 years, we should have 250 new homes, at least 250 new homes, if we meet our goal in Muskegon Heights. And why do I think that's possible? Not only because of my gut instinct as a city manager, looking at the potential of our community, looking at the growth in the region, the re-embracing of the West Shore and the lake, the opportunity that is out there. I hope that the governor will take advantage of it for us to get the casino. And I don't know if you can see that. My support the casino button is covered up by the mic, but all of that says to me that there is value upon value, and we need to take advantage of the opportunity to generate generational wealth for our community today, because if we don't, in 5 years somebody else will, and we'll be gone. Now, beyond my gut instinct, the Treasury Office was kind enough to give us close to $80,000 to study this. And the study came back, and this is an expensive study, so high-tech data analysis, came back and said, based on the trends in our region, looking forward, not looking backwards, we're not talking about comparables on who sold what house for what amount last year, even though that's helpful, because we know last year and the year before, property values in Muskegon Heights went up 10% and 15% respectively. So we know our property values are going up. But set that aside, looking forward into the future based on trend analysis, they came back and said that we could build 175 homes to 200 homes in Muskegon Heights every year and not meet the demand for new homes in Muskegon Heights. That we're not talking about Muskegon County. We're not talking about the city of Muskegon. We're talking about Muskegon Heights. That's what the data is saying. And you don't be mistaken. There or delusioned. There are realtors and real estate entities out there that know what this data says, that are waiting for the opportunity to swoop in and grab property in Muskegon Heights and develop it without any concern for or interest in maintaining the fabric of our community. Now, I don't begrudge anybody for wanting to make a profit. I mean, that's what our country was built on, capitalism and the opportunity for ingenuity and innovation and creating profit. However, I do want anybody who's making a profit, who's making money, to give to the community, to be part of the community, to reinforce the fabric of our community, not tear it in half. And that's the difference. If we act smartly, strategically, skillfully, we can do that. Now, part of that, and I appreciate one of the comments that came up, is understanding that when property comes available within Muskegon Heights through the land bank, through the foreclosure process, we have to take control of our destiny as a municipality and as a community. I mean, God bless the land bank for the purpose that they serve um, in being a backstop for property and creating an opportunity for the city to be able to receive the um, property tax when nobody's paying the property tax or when it's delinquent, and that's important. But the land bank is not Muskegon Heights. The land bank is not the community of Muskegon Heights. And almost by definition, they don't have the same objectives, values, concerns, aspirations. I mean, they may want to see us do well. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but it is not the same as controlling our own destiny. And so when property comes available, I know the policy in the past, because of finances and financial distress, was that when property came available, we didn't have the resources to manage or maintain the property, and so we let it go back to the land bank, or we rejected it when it came from the land bank. Well, in the beginning of this new administration, our policy is to take all the land that comes available so that we can control our destiny, because we want to be strategic and intentional about making sure that we maintain the fabric of our community, that people who are renting can transition to ownership, that people who may be in a house that is too small for them, and they've outgrown that house but don't have anywhere else to go because they don't want to leave the Heights, have someplace else to grow into in Muskegon Heights. So if you grow up here, you should be able to come back from school, if you leave for school, and buy an apartment or rent an apartment that then allows you to be prepared to buy an apartment or buy a house. And maybe it's a starter house, 1, 2 bedrooms, that your family grows and it becomes a 4-bedroom house. And then when you get into your senior years, that there is living arrangements that will take care of you as a senior. We should be able to provide the full spectrum of all of those opportunities here in Muskegon Heights. And with 1,000 vacant lots, we have nothing standing in our way of being able to achieve that but ourselves. But ourselves. And so when property comes back from the land bank, if it's a vacant home or abandoned structure, we need to be ready to rehab that. And so with the rehabs of these vacant structures, we can fill that price point in the market between 40,000 and 80,000. That may be a starter home for somebody who's not ready to take on the responsibility of a $150,000 house. So yes, Miss Aubrey, we need to stop giving up our land to the land bank and taking our destiny into our own hands. So I appreciate that comment. Now, there's a lot of discussion about vacant buildings. Well, that is why in 2009, I'm guessing, I wasn't here in 2009, um, the council had the wisdom to pass the vacant building ordinance. Now, the vacant building ordinance says that if you have a home in the city that is vacant, a building in the city that's vacant, that after a year you have to pay a fee. You have to register it as a vacant building and you have to pay a fee for it being vacant. And the theory and thinking behind this is that if you have to pay for something to be sitting there, then maybe you are motivated to do something with it so that you're not paying for something that's just sitting there. Maybe you want to fix it up to live in it. Rather put that money that you're paying for vacancies into fixing it up so that you can enjoy it. Or maybe you want to fix it up so that you can market it to a business. Well, it makes more sense than throwing away $500 than to market it to a business or sell it. Because if you're paying to hold it, that's not doing you any good. It's not putting any money in your pocket. It's taking money out of your pocket. So after the first year, it's $500, and then it escalates every year after that. So in the second year, I believe it's $1,000. In the third year that it's vacant, you pay $2,000. So if you've got a property that's been vacant for 3 years, you owe $500 for the first year, $1,000 for the second year, $2,000 for the third year. So you would owe a total over 3 years of $3,500. That's the way the vacant building ordinance works. And in 2019, we had collected all of $1,000 in vacant building fees. And we all know that we have more than 2 vacant buildings in Muskegon Heights. So we have begun the process of enforcing this ordinance to encourage people who are holding on to properties that are just sitting there vacant to do something with those properties. And hopefully with the programs that we're trying to dig into and bring to the table for housing and economic development, that we'll be able to identify a fund of money to incentivize people to develop their properties. So if they put in $1, maybe this fund puts in 50 cents. If they put in $1, maybe this fund puts in $2 to incentivize them to invest in improving the property. But that's something that's still down the road and hasn't been determined. Maybe it's something that comes out of the American Rescue Plan funding, maybe not. But there's an opportunity there. But on the other side of this, the stick is the vacant building fees. The carrot is hopefully something that we can put together as a fund to incentivize people to do something with their properties. So I have covered a lot in an hour with just me. I know you all enjoy when I've got guests on. You're probably, I'm probably putting everybody to sleep with just me. It's not as exciting as when we have 4 or 5 guests in the studio with us that are participating. But I do want to say something about the cemetery before I wrap up. We have put together some pricing on doing some improvements to the cemetery, uh, renovating the cannon, the office building, the chapel, as well as the nursery building, plant nursery building. Those 4 projects together have come to a grand total of about $730,000. Including landscaping and along with that. So I will be sitting down with staff and council to look at a plan, a capital plan, to raise the funds to be able to do those improvements out at the cemetery. This is a much needed change that the cemetery needs. And so I appreciate the cemetery committee, members of the committee, doing the footwork to be able to put together this pricing, to put together the list of needs, and to be able to articulate that so that we can begin to move forward with the effort of raising the funds to be able to address these much needed concerns out at the cemetery. So that is an update that I wanted to bring to the table before we closed out. And finally, I want to end with this. Next Wednesday, I made this announcement before. Next Wednesday at 5:30, I'm asking members of the community who are interested in what our plans are for the upcoming year. We want to start the planning process early. So January, we're kicking this off by asking community to come together so we as a group can have a conversation of what we want to see as a community in terms of events and activities going into the new year. So I've asked a few key parties in our community to help lead the discussion. But the outcome of this, at least the minimum outcome, I'm hoping that there'll be more. We began this discussion last year and we're following up on that, is to be able to put together a calendar and schedule of events in Muskegon Heights so that we can plan towards it, that we can plan on it, so that we can market it, and we can promote it. Because I firmly believe, like I said before, the opportunity to do things in Muskegon Heights outweighs any activity, Grand Haven, any of these other locations, because of the value of our community and the people in our community. And there's no reason why we can't be doing those types of things. And I think we proved that when we did Juneteenth fireworks last year. You know, a lot of people thought that that was never going to happen. But I mean, fireworks over the water, A lot of communities would kill to have water to begin with, but to be able to do fireworks, I mean, that is quality of life. Recreation is an important part of our quality of life. And so we talk about a renaissance. This is that piece of the process of elevating how much we enjoy our community, the quality of life in our community. So please remember to come out Wednesday, City Hall, 5:30. We welcome community members to come. Again, please bring masks, exercise safe social distancing, and let's see what we can come up with. And at minimum, we'll leave there with a calendar of events and an action plan on how we're going to get those things accomplished. So I'm excited about it, and please share and let everybody know to join us Wednesday at 5:30. So with that, I will wrap up our show here on Reaching New Heights with Troy Bell, the city manager, City of Muskegon Heights. Again, it's an honor and a privilege to serve in this capacity. I thank the leadership of the mayor and the council for giving me the opportunity to serve a community like Muskegon Heights, a community of Muskegon Heights. And so it is a blessing that I thank the Lord for every day. So with that, I will say, I hope you enjoyed the opportunity to get to know what you need to know so you'll be in the know here on 1037 The Beat. Have a blessed day.